And on NDTV, we're tracking every moment of the Iran-Israel clash that is escalating into a war-like situation. The breaking story that we're bringing to you right now, a fresh wave of Iranian missiles has just hit Israel. At least 17 people injured in different places, and we are told that at least 3 are in serious condition. These people have been wounded after Iran's latest missile salvo with explosions reported in several locations. This is, at last count, the 12th missile salvo that Iran has fired into Israel. So these are the details that we're bringing to you at this point of time. Remember, earlier today, NDTV had reported Israel's claim that Iran had been firing missiles containing cluster munitions over Israel, causing a huge amount of widespread damage in some places. And I want to show you what that actually looks like. These are images of the damage in one of those places where a cluster bomb is said to have fallen in Israel. What precise kind of cluster bomb this was is not known just yet, but I do have an animation to tell you what a cluster bomb is on NDTV. We are decoding every aspect of the destructive weapons being used. This is what a cluster munition looks like. Now, this is, of course, only representative, but a missile or a bomb launched from Iran that a few kilometers above the ground simply detonates, sending a huge number of bomblets or submunitions in different directions, covering a wide area. We are told that the explosion took place about 7 kilometers in the air, and then the munitions basically spider-webbed out in that way, fanned out and struck different targets, therefore causing maximum damage over a wide area. So this is what a cluster bomb looks like. Israel says they've got information about one particular cluster munition being used, and it could actually be used again. Now, cluster munitions are, of course, controversial because there are UN conventions prohibiting the use of cluster bombs. So we'll be reporting that very, very closely. Now, remember that Trump has provided a 2-week notice to Iran. There is every sense that there may be a direct United States-led attack on Iran. But if that actually happens, if the United States steps into this big war, given how things are actually going between Iran and Israel, it's going to take one of the deadliest non-nuclear weapons to actually conduct what the United States wants to do, which is to hit Iran's deep-seated Fordo nuclear facility. Now, the B-2 stealth bomber, one of the prized possessions of the American strategic forces, is an American stealth bomber. When you hear the word stealth bomber, this is the aircraft that they're actually talking about. This aircraft would need to drop a bomb, and I'm going to show you that bomb getting out of the bomb bay of this aircraft. There it is. It drops out, and it may look small in these images, viewer, but this is an enormous 20-foot GBU-57. What you're looking at is basically the mother of all non-nuclear bombs. It's a precision-guided bunker-buster bomb, 30,000 pounds, 20 feet in length, absolutely enormous piece of weaponry. And this weapon, called the GBU-57, will basically be dropped from a B-2 if it comes to that, if Trump decides to pull the trigger. And then what it has to do is penetrate into alloy concrete earth up to 150 feet or 200 feet. 61 meters deep is where the Fordo nuclear facility is situated. It has to go all the way down, efficiently destroy bunkers, tunnels, and everything in its path. And remember, it's all reinforced stuff built there to protect that. It is guided with a GPS and inertial navigation system. And once it reaches this bunker area where the actual nuclear facility is, then it actually has to explode. And it carries a warhead of a staggering 2.2 tons, one of the largest non-nuclear warheads on Earth. So when it reaches this point, 200 feet deep, is when it explodes. It does not get triggered until it actually reaches that point. That's how it's been triggered to behave. Now, we know about this weapon. It will be a last resort weapon because of the destructive qualities of it. But the United States has a lot of other weapons that if Trump decides to pull the trigger and get directly involved in punishing Iran for what's going on, then here's a look at some of the other American weapons that will almost definitely have to play a part. And remember, these are only suggestions of what a scenario might look like, not to suggest even for a moment that this will actually happen. The F-22 Raptor, it's the Rolls-Royce of stealth aircraft. It was the first fifth-generation fighter to enter service. It's an air superiority aircraft. This will almost definitely get into the play. The B-2 Spirit is the stealth bomber that I told you about. The F-18 Super Hornet is a naval carrier-based fighter that is the staple of the US Navy's aircraft carriers, nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. And of course, the F-15 Eagle is the US Air Force's prized airstrike machine. So these are the aircraft that will probably be part of any fight if Trump decides to get involved directly. Missiles and drones, those are the aircraft. Missiles and drones, the Tomahawk long-range land attack cruise missile, which first saw action in the original Gulf War of 1991, could possibly be brought back into the game this time. This is a missile that can be launched from ships as well as from submarines. There's also something called the AGM-158 JASSM. It's a stealth cruise missile, again, very, very long-range air-launched cruise missile that could possibly be used against Iran. It's a stealthy cruise missile, as you can tell from that shape. The AGM-114 Hellfire missile is something that is fired from MQ-9 Reaper drones, or the Predator drones. The armed variety will be firing these. And just a small side nugget, this is a weapon that is already in service with the Indian Air Force as well, though not on drones. These are there on our Apache helicopters. There are obviously warships that are going to get into the game as well. The USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier is already in the Mediterranean at this point of time. The USS Nimitz has just exited the South China Sea and will almost definitely play a part in this. These are enormous floating airfields with so many fighters on board. The fighter population on board one of these ships dwarf many countries' air forces, in fact. But apart from aircraft carriers, the carrier battle groups will play a big role if it becomes an escalated affair. The Ticonderoga class guided missile cruisers are a staple of the US Navy. And finally, Virginia-class nuclear-powered attack submarines, which can fire land attack cruise missiles and that kind of thing. Now, if Trump pulls the trigger, he will also need bases from which to actually wage what could be a long and destructive battle. If it comes to that, and it's only a big if, remember, and that will become clearer in the next 2 weeks, the US has no shortage of bases in West Asia from which it can stage some of these attacks. Take a look. That's where Iran is, but the United States has bases all over the place. It has the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. It's the largest US military base outside of the United States. 100 aircraft and drones, 8,000 troops. Major air operations hub is right there in Qatar. Just off the Persian Gulf is where you can actually see it. You've got another airbase in Bahrain. It is basically a naval support hub. 9,000 personnel, US Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters is right there. Look at how close it is to Iran, and you can tell logistically how this would all happen. Saudi Arabia has the Prince Sultan Air Base, 2,700 US troops, strategic air power base where the United States is able to stage many of its long-range aircraft. Kuwait has Camp Arif Jan, which has been there since the 1991 Gulf War, located 55 kilometers southeast of Kuwait City. It's a key logistics and joint force base. Remember, logistics is very important, and please look at how close it is to the Iranian mainland. And finally, UAE's Al Dhafra Air Base, which is familiar to us in India because that's where the Indian Air Force has conducted many joint exercises, is a huge base. 3,500 troops, hosts advanced aircraft like F-22 Raptors, fighters, surveillance planes, drones, intelligence surveillance and strike operations are supported from the Al Dhafra base. So all around Iran, including Iraq's Erbil Air Base, which is of course controlled entirely by the United States, is also available over there. In Syria, the post-Assad era, but even before, US troops are present in various areas, and they are actually vulnerable to attacks from Iran. But if you take a look at this entire map right now, there are smaller logistical hubs in different places, but Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, and Syria, the US has a military base presence, which means that should push come to shove, should at the end of these 2 weeks the United States decides to pull the trigger and get involved directly with Iran, it has no shortage of bases from where to stage that attack. So while on the one end, EU allies now seem to have clarity on the present situation between Iran and Israel, they're waiting for a word from who else but America and President Trump, the president who will not decide for at least a fortnight by his own telling. This report tells you about the twists and turns Trump's Middle East strategy has taken in the last fortnight.
14 days. That's how long President Trump has paused a decision that could ignite a war with Iran. After signaling the US might strike Iran's underground nuclear site, Trump suddenly slammed the brakes, citing a chance at diplomacy. Some critics even call it taco. Trump always chickens out.
Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that.
But Trump's history says otherwise. He sets deadlines before and does nothing later. Yet this isn't about tweets or trade wars. This is about war plans. Before the war broke out, Trump asked Israel not to act. But then after Israel's strike, Trump called them excellent. Trump then warned Khamenei that he knows the exact location of the Iranian supreme leader, and then doubled down on the warning of an unconditional surrender, only to say he may or may not do anything about Iran. As things stand, 14 days is too long a time to predict in the complex and volatile Middle East.